Okay, so this Sunday marks the first sieges of the Western release of Throne and Liberty. It's going to be taking place on the early access servers, and these servers are likely to have some of the largest vaults, and because of that, I'm going to have some of the biggest Lucent distribution. But I wanted to cover off a little bit more than just the Lucent and the Solent that's going to be up for grabs in the Stonegard Castle sieges. I also wanted to cover what impact this has on your server after the siege is completed. So first we're going to look at a couple of examples taking into consideration Khazar and Talis, the two servers that I'm most familiar with, what the breakdown of the Lucent is and how that's going to be distributed, and then I'll also want to touch on what's going to happen after the Stonegard sieges and how this is going to impact your servers moving forward. Hopefully this will help to put your mind at ease a little bit, because ultimately the 2 million or above Lucent that's in the Stonegard Castle at the moment isn't up for grabs for the guilds. It actually breaks down a little bit different, and it's not as simple as that. So on any given siege week, only 40% of the current vault is up for grabs. That 40% is then split evenly, 50-50, between the siege vault and the pillage sites. The siege vault is going to be up for grabs for whoever manages to either claim the throne or defend the throne. The pillage sites are going to be filled with Lucent, and these can be drained every 5 minutes by any guild that occupies them. This is going to be where the most Lucent is up for grabs for the smaller alliances or those contesting that aren't trying to actually capture the throne. So unless an alliance manages to completely lock down Stonegard Castle, they're only looking to get around 20% of the current siege reward. So what I'll do is use Khazar and Talis as examples, and then we'll break that down into a couple of scenarios. So firstly, looking at Khazar and Talis, both have just over 2 million Lucent as of the point that I record this video. That means that only 40% of that 2 million is actually up for grabs on siege day. And we'll have a look at two scenarios now that kind of break that down further. So we're taking into consideration a full 280 person alliance, and then 40% of the current 2.1 Lucent that's in the Stonegard vault. So that means that 840,000 Lucent is up for grabs on siege day. 50% of this goes to the vault, and then 50% of this goes to the pillage sites. So 420,000 in the pillage sites, 420,000 Lucent up for grabs for the alliance that manages to either defend or ultimately capture the throne. So taking into consideration that there's 280 people in a full alliance, if the alliance manages to defend the throne but all of the pillage points are completely drained by other guilds, they're going to manage to walk away with around 1,700 Lucent per person, providing that everybody in the alliance was there for the attack or the defense. So not a huge amount of Lucent up for grabs in that sense, and it's not going to have a massive swing in terms of what alliances can do on the server, and that's obviously based on a full alliance, whereas on Talis at the moment, Nyx and Nyx is only 2 guilds. We'd obviously get slightly more than that because we're not using a full alliance, but holding that is going to be a lot harder for us than it will be for bigger alliances. Now, the absolute best case scenario on any of these servers is that the alliance manages to completely lock down Stonegard Castle. That means that nobody ever takes any of the Lucent from the alliance from the pillage sites, and they manage to consistently push back the attack and defend the throne entirely. And this is going to see the Lucent that each player gets increase to 3,500 Lucent. So still not a huge amount of Lucent. It's not going to be something that absolutely destroys a server, and it's not going to make it so that these guilds suddenly become untouchable. Now, I did do a little bit of a calculation as well. If this scenario was to play out on a server that had 5 million Lucent in Stonegard Castle, each player would walk away with around 7,000. So even in an absolute best case scenario, on a huge server with a massive vault, alliances aren't going to be walking away with tons and tons of Lucent that's going to allow them to absolutely decimate a server. So the Lucent side of things isn't going to be breaking the game, and neither is the Solent side of things. I didn't touch on Solent because it's really not that important, but it is going to be good for the alliances that manage to defend or to take the throne, because Solent is going to be used for pretty much everything we do in game along with Lucent. But let's have a look at what happens after siege day and what the impact is going to be on the server from there. As it currently stands, the castle tax is set to 2%. After the Stonegard siege, what you're going to see is that this castle tax will get changed by the owning alliance, and it's going to go as high as they can possibly put it. Now, the way that the tax works in this game is, as you can see from the auction house menu, the tax is currently 22%. Now, 20% of this gets destroyed, and that's to take Lucent out of the economy and to stop inflation. And then 2% goes to the castle siege vault. So that 2 million is only 2% of the total Lucent that's been spent. That means that it's essentially in the best interest for the defending alliance to set this tax rate as high as possible to rebuild the Stonegard Castle's siege vault ready for the next siege in 2 weeks' time. This is going to be one of the things that has the biggest impact on you, but from playing on Korea, it doesn't have this significant impact, or not as significant impact as you might think. It is a pain when the tax gets increased, it's just like in real life, but ultimately it's not going to be the be all end all of things. But again, this is something that has an impact on all of the players, whether they commit to taking part in the siege or not. And again, this is why it's in the best interest to be taking over the throne and not letting a guild sit on the throne for a long period of time, because they're going to keep the tax rate where it benefits them and where they can make the most Lucent from it. But what's going to be more interesting to PvE players is going to be what they can do with Queen Venom Neutralizer. So this is what you use during the Queen Bellendir fight to clear the dot from the poison. This is going to become unavailable. The alliance that holds the castle will make it so this can only be purchased by the legion that's defending or that owns Stonegard. This is going to essentially completely prevent you from buying this and diminish the potential that you have to need the consumable for during the fight. This has an impact on the PvE side of the game, and I know that from recent changes that AGS are making and from the feedback from the player base, they don't like anything that PvP guilds can do that's going to diminish their experience in PvE. So ultimately this is going to be a bit of a pain for you if you're going to be looking to do Queen Bellendir on peacetime, because it does mean that you're going to be dying because of the debuff and you're going to struggle, whereas the Legion that holds Stonegard is going to be able to have the normal supply of this. So my advice to you is to stock up on this while you still can, because other than that, you're probably not going to get your hands on much or any of this going forwards. There will likely be times where it gets turned on so that allies and friends can buy it, and this will be something that's determined again by the Stonegard Legion. So you'll want to keep checking this regularly to see if it has been turned back on for a limited time. But this is going to be one of the things that I think people are going to complain about, along with the tax rate. But those are the two big things that are going to be able to happen following the siege. So the Lucent itself isn't going to be the most impactful thing. The thing that's going to impact the player base the most is going to be the castle tax rate increases and shutting off that Venom Neutralizer from the masses on the server. Anyway, any questions, drop them in the comment section, I'll answer them where I can. If any information's wrong in this, then I'm going to pin it in the comment section. But thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.